good morning, and welcome back to Breakfast Blessing. I am Roger Williams, the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Glen Cove, Long Island, New York, and we are in the sanctuary of the building where we meet as believers and faith people who walk every day in our faith to give God the glory and give Him the praise through our living and through our sacrificial understanding of this world that we live in. Our sacrificial life as we live out our lives in the pattern of Jesus Christ. We'll be meeting here this morning at 10 a.m., and we invite you to come and be a part of what we're doing. I believe the Lord is blessing our congregation, blessing us in a very unique way. We're learning a lot together, and we invite you to come and be with us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. here at the First Baptist Church, 7 Continental Place, Long Island, New York. We would look forward to having you right here in the city of Glen Cove. We're so very happy to have you today. And let me say from the outset, congratulations to the New York Knicks. They are the NBA champions 25-26 year, 2025-2026 season. Congratulations to the New York Knicks winning the NBA Finals in 5 games. Impressive. And I know so many people here are very happy about the win, and we're so very happy for the Knicks and very proud of them here in the city of Glen Cove and all over. I just want to say good morning to some people here this morning who have joined us. Thank you for coming in, and so many of you are always with us on Sunday morning. We're so very thankful. Lena Augustine in Louisiana, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and being with me. Tanya Brown, one of our soldiers here at First Baptist, thank you. Thank you so much. Tawana Griffin Stewart down in North Carolina, thank you for coming on and being with us this morning. God bless you. Denise Lloyd France, right here on Long Island, God bless you. Community Baptist Church, thank you for being a part of us. Cassandra Bilberry, Mother Bilberry, God bless you. Thank you for being on with us this morning down in Louisiana. Mignon Waller down in Maryland, bless you. Thank you. Erica L. Mitchell down in Georgia, thank you so much. Vernie Williams down in North Carolina, blessings on you for being a part of what we're doing this morning. We're so very happy, and I'm so very thankful for all of you who choose to be with us every Sunday morning. And we'd like you to share, like and share, and let others know that we're here this morning and we are ready to share with them the blessings that God has given to us. Well, this morning, as I promised last week, there is a very special guest that I have with me this morning. Some days ago, I had a chance to have an interview with the Reverend Dr. Francine L. Hernandez. And just a little bit about her. She is one of the great experts, if not the expert, in clinical pastoral education. She is a board-certified chaplain, pastoral counsel, educator, and author, and an ordained Baptist minister. I've sat under her leadership, am sitting under her leadership, and she has provided some of the greatest wisdom and training for so many trainees throughout not only New York, but around the world. And many chaplains and other pastors have benefited from the great work that she's done in clinical pastoral education. I really believe that the church has a watershed moment here for us. And Dr. Francine L. Hernandez has addressed how we can meet that watershed moment with some of the great books that she has written. And so a few days ago, I had an opportunity to sit down with her and talk with her about her work, not only in her books, but her philosophy about CPE, or clinical pastoral education. And we sat down and we had a chance to talk with each other on the last week. I pray now that if I can, I'd like to share that interview with you at this time. The Reverend Dr. Francine L. Hernandez. And now our special guest, Dr. Francine L. Hernandez. Dr. Hernandez, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is a blessing to have you on, and how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I am great, and I am thankful that you have me on. I really appreciate that, Pastor Williams. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so glad that you could make the time to be with us. I know you're a very busy person with a lot of work in front of you, a lot of students that are benefiting from the great wisdom that you provide in clinical pastoral education. I just want to stop for a moment And just, I want to talk about CPE for a moment, and that's the acronym we use, but we're going to talk about it in a way that the person who's hearing it for the first time can get to know what CPE is all about and your journey with clinical pastoral education. Just for a moment, in your words, clinical pastoral education, what is that for the curious mind this morning?
Oh, very good question. Very good question. It's clinical pastoral education, as you have said it. That's what CPE stands for, clinical pastoral education. And the pioneer of clinical pastoral education is Anton Borzin. Anton Borzin had several psychotic episodes. He was a Presbyterian minister, and he looked at his own life as a living human document. As a matter of fact, he's the one who coined that phrase, the living human document. And you cannot talk about CPE without talking about him. That's why I started with him, because he was the one back in around 1925, I believe. He brought over 4 students from the seminary. He said it was important because in the seminary, what you get is a theoretical knowledge of how to be a minister, what to do, the administrative piece, the philosophical piece, the theological piece, you know, the system. The administrative, I think I said that, the administrative piece, but you also get the study. If you I was Baptist in seminary, I'm still Baptist, so I studied Baptist polity, you know, Baptist history. You get all of that. But he said, we got to bring you minister out of the seminary, out of the classrooms, and bring you where the rubber meets the road, where real suffering happens. Because you're going to pastor different churches, and maybe you're going to institutions, but human life, the human experience, until you have walked with a person in the real, live, raw data of their lives, the theoretical piece is unfinished. And so he brought 4 students from the seminary, and they came and had the first first CPE group. Well, they was kind of listed as orderly, but they could visit a patient. They had access to the records of the patient. They could read those records and then talk about what they thought was going on with the patient, what he was asking them to do to make a diagnosis. That's a clinical piece. And see, pastors and ministers, we know how to be pastoral. We know how to be loving and nurturing and caring for those whom God has placed under our care. But can we be clinical? So one question Paul Prauser asked, a question of ministers when he was trained. Paul Prauser was a psychologist, and he asked questions of seminarians who came to him for a course. How do you make a diagnosis? When you go and visit with the person, what are you looking for? How are you able to determine what is going on? And he determined that some of them was using medical terms, like the person was depressed. He said, how do you know that? That's a medical diagnosis. How are you making your diagnosis? And so he just pulled back, sat back in this chair and said, well, you ministers, how do you make diagnosis? And he encouraged us to make sure that we are looking at certain things, listening for certain clues as to what's going on with the patient. He gave her those 7 diagnostic variables, I call them. They are fit. They can fit rather any person. You don't even have to have a religious experience or be a part of a denomination to use those diagnostic variables. But what Paul Prauser look at them as giving us some benchmarks. That's the clinical piece. How are we making a diagnosis? He look at the awareness of the holy, regardless of where. I can't say regardless, but most people, they value something that is stronger and bigger outside of self.
Right.
And so that's where the awareness of the holy, what do you value? What do you hold in awe? And you can process that with that person when they're going through their own suffering or illnesses. Then faith. What do they have faith in? What are they trusting God for? Or whomever the higher power is. Repentance, not the repentance that we church folks know, repenting of your sin, but he talked about change. What do you want to change? You're in this particular predicament or in this particular suffering. What is it you want to change? And then he talked about providence. What do you see your higher power operating right now? It's about making meaning. That's what the clinical piece. How do you help them to make meaning of whatever that person may be going through? Vocation, what do they feel called to do? Grace or gratefulness? Where do they find grace? Even now, in the midst of the darkest moment, do they find grace anywhere? And you can explore that. I'm sure I probably left out a couple of them, but read the book. Paul Prauser, the minister as a diagnostician. So that's the clinical piece. So when a person comes to CPE, we already know you're pastors. Well, a minister who've been called by God. But when you come over to our place in CPE, we are teaching you, first of all, to get in touch with who you are. Because you are the one operating in that ministry. If you don't know who you are, what will happen is your own stuff can bleed over to other people's stuff. So the clinical piece is making diagnosis first with yourself and then with the other.
And very good. And I would like to reiterate what I said in my introduction. Dr. Hernandez is currently my instructor. I'm very proud to say that my life and ministry has been changed by the work that she's done. And what she just did, audience, is explain to you the psychodynamic approach. But doctor, if you don't mind, help some pastors and lay leaders with that word. That's a big word, psychodynamic. We got to trust God's word. I can hear some of the members saying that now, some of the pastors, some of the deacons. We just got to believe God's word. What is all this psychodynamic clinical stuff you're talking about? Psychodynamic approach, which is attached to your book we're going to talk about in a minute, Cave Walker, before we get to your latest work. Psychodynamic, what is that?
That's so important, the psychodynamic approach. And I know for many, it's a different word because we don't think it's a part of the theological framework that we've been trained, going to seminary and got our degrees. If you haven't gone to seminary, you've gotten some training, you have some experience. So you know the theological piece. But we are people who have a psyche. We come from a family system. We come from different experiences, and all of our experiences, every family dynamic, whether good, bad, or ugly, has been a part of our DNA. It has shaped us to be the person that we are today. The psychodynamic approach comes in, is whatever you're going through today is being informed by an experience from your past, how you respond. And so when we are engaging a person and asking them about how they're doing, it's important to take time to engage them around, have you felt this before? What might be the trigger? What might be causing you to feel this way? So the psychodynamic approach, it looks for what might be the undercurrents, what may be happening from your past that is influencing the way you are dealing with this present situation.
And that's so powerful, and it goes right back to the use of self as a tool. Now, that's your latest work, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. I want to just make sure, though, that our audience is reminded of what I mentioned in the introduction, and I'd just like you to just give a little short word about these great works that you have done.
Sure.
The book, Bring a Chair, Not a Needle, Empathy Over Fixing. Empathy Over Fixing. And of course, I've read this book. Doctor, the person buying this book and getting into CPE, what's the emphasis you want them to get out of that work?
Okay, you want me to start with K-Walk, or you want me to start with Bring a Chair?
Bring a chair. Bring a chair. Yeah.
Start with Bring a Chair. Now, you never wrote K-Walker first.
Okay? Well, let's do it. You're the author, so I'll do K-Walker, psychodynamic approach. Yes, let's do that. Yes.
Oh, yeah, K-Walker. I mean, that K-Walker is just my premier book.
Yes.
Over the years, I've been a supervisor over 2 decades, and I've always told trainees to go into the cave of people, go into that dark place when their pain, their suffering. And I was inspired, I can say this, by God.
Yes.
Choose the title Cave Walker. You know, because that's what I've been telling people to do, to walk into the cave. Now, on the education and the academic side, I've read Plato's allegory of the cave.
Yeah.
In Plato's allegory of the cave, there are people who are in the cave, they're chained, and behind them there is a fire. And in front of them there is like a stage, and they can see the shadows behind them are being cast on a certain stage. So what they're really seeing look like puppets and shadows. They're not the real thing. And they have been accustomed to seeing what is not the real thing. And if one, Plato said, if one would leave out of the cave and go and experience the light, because the light is so bright and so new to them and uncomfortable, they will come back in and even tell those who are seeing figmentation or a thing that are not real, puppets on the stage, that they're not going to believe them. Why? Because they have been stuck in that certain place for so long. Let me put in today's vernacular. Grandmama told me this. It's my tradition. I know this is true. We've been doing this for 100 years, so this has to be true. And so not tested against reality. A lot of things that we say have not been tested against reality. We have learned to say them. And I'm going to say this and I get back to that. I'm convinced that many people are not the author of their theology. It was received. Somebody told us I joined a church and that was the doctrines and the principles, and that's what I fell into. But what do you believe? And this is what I tell students sometimes. It's just like what Jesus asked his disciples, whom do men say that I am?
Yeah.
Some say Elias, Jeremiah, John, one of the prophets. But then he paused and said, but whom do you say that I am? Yeah. And so that's what it comes, even with their own theology. Have you worked it out for yourself that you know? So those who are in Plato's cave, they hadn't worked out anything. They just believe what they have seen all the years, so it must be real. And so what I suggest, a kind of, not a paradigm shift, but a different way to look at Plato's cave. There are people who are suffering. They're going through their own maladies, their own crises, and they need somebody to tell them it doesn't have to stay this way forever. You may have believed that you're not going to get better, that things are not going to change, but as a cave walker who comes in not to fix you, and that's my next book, but to sit with you and to listen to your narrative. And look within the lines and the pages of your narrative and see where you might draw strength and move out of that dark place. Yeah. And because really the strength is in you. Yeah. You hold the answer to most of your problems. And sometimes you just need a cave walker to come by and explore your darkness and listen to the echoes. What images are you using to describe what you are going through? You may say, well, my life feels like a ton of bricks are on my shoulder. Well, cave walker won't pass that. They'll come back and explore. Say more about the ton of bricks. What made you come up with that image? It comes from somewhere. And that's a psychodynamic approach as well, because the terms that we use, we have received them or learned them over our past. And they have been a part of our language, a part of our vocabulary. So a cave walker really walks into that place where that person is. And the psychodynamic approach is to look at what might be influencing, what might be impacting the way the person is responding in the present to their dilemma.
Yeah. And to be that cave walker for me, and I'm sure many other students who've sat at your feet to learn, Doctor, we've had to learn not to fix. And so your book that is talking about bring the chair and not the needle.
Yes.
Over fixing.
Yes.
We pastors like to fix it because we want everybody to believe we got the answer.
Yes.
Look, bring a chair, not a needle is a revolutionary change of that idea. Talk about that.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you say that there are many pastors, and it's not a put down on pastors because, we like Sigmund Freud said, our ego, an ego's not a bad word. Yeah. That's what we are. We want to represent ourselves well. And when a person asks us to do something, we don't want to come across like a failure. So I'm not putting anyone down like just fixing. But I suggest that the reason why we want to fix somebody is because unconsciously we're trying to fix ourselves. That's the real person you're trying to fix. is yourself.
Right.
So my book, Bring a Chair, Not a Needle. Bring a chair, sit down with the person, pull back all of your degrees, pull back all of your experiences, pull it back, I know the answer. Pull back the fact that you know a person, Sister Joan, had the same problem, and that prayer you used for Sister Joan worked. And now you're going to come over into this situation and use the same prayer. My invitation, sit and listen to the story. People really want to tell their story. They don't want to hear you rush to the spiritual bypass. That's what too many ministers do. We know the spiritual bypass so well. You may say, what is a spiritual bypass? It's a psychological word. It's using spiritual language to cover up painful emotions. Let that person talk about their pain. That's what Jesus did. He let them talk about it. He's our perfect model for a pastoral caregiver. So bring a chair is an invitation for you to sit down, to pause, to move have a non-anxious presence, and sit down and listen on a different level. Empathy over fixing. Well, let's talk about sympathy. Too many of us, we know about sympathy. That's feeling sorry for some people, or feeling sorry for that person. They don't really need you to feel sorry for them. You can have sorrow with them. If you empathy means putting yourself in that person's place. If you were going through the same thing, what would you need to be whole again? They don't want you to fix them. Because if you fix me today, who's going to fix me tomorrow? I get accustomed to being fixed and not empower to fix myself. So bring a needle, bring a chair. You see that? I mean, we've been bringing needles so long, it become a part of your vocabulary. Bring a chair, not a needle. Don't put them back together. Don't try to can you imagine if you went to a doctor's office and you came in bleeding and the doctor just started sewing you up? Had no idea where the blood is coming from, just sewing you up all. That's fixing. But the doctor needs to know where the blood is coming from. Stop the source of the bleeding. Then he can patch you up. And so we're inviting ministers all over. Get the book. I guarantee it will help you. Bring a chair and not a needle, and bring your empathy there. And don't feel like you have to fix it. And watch this, Pastor Williams. This will save minister lives. It will stop you from aging so fast. When you think you got to fix so many problems, that's overwhelming. It's overwhelming in your ministry. You'll start looking old before you get old because you're trying to take care of everybody's problem. Everybody come to the pastor, fix this and do this for me. After a while, there's nothing left for you. You don't have anything left for your families, for yourself. There's nothing left. If you can pause, bring a chair. I'm trying to fix it. It's going to take a whole lot of weight out for you. When you don't have to fix it.
Yeah, I can imagine there are some pastors and lay leaders of churches listening right now and saying, I'm curious about this. How do I integrate this into my church? And I think that's where the book Stay in Your Lane comes into play right here. Churches need clinicians. What a bold statement. And when you introduced this to us, my rest of our peers, I think we were all looking at each other knowing that you were way out in front of the usual contemporary mindset that our churches have. Talk about stay in your lane. We need clinicians in our churches. Talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that book. Yeah, that book really is a reflection of my dissertation.
Okay.
My dissertation talk about breaking the stigma in our churches and calling for a need for a compassionate ministry, because there's some mental health issues that are not necessarily organic. People have had what Antoine Boison called a disruption of their whole world, or something happened in their world that caused them to crumble, and they just need somebody to be with them. And so that book, Stay in Your Lane, my first chapter, let me back up. Stay in your lane is that God has called ministers to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Call them to teach, to counsel, to be with people in their journey. But there are some places that your scope of practice does not reach. A person keep coming presenting with certain situation. They may have a diagnosis that is above your scope of practice. So I'm inviting ministers to stay in their lane. If a person come to you for counseling, really the rule is you should see a person over only up to 3 times.
Okay.
The same issue. It's time to refer. It's time to refer them to a person who specializes in that particular situation that they're going through. So my desire is that ministers or clergies and clinicians can come together.
Yeah.
So that the people who are skilled to make a diagnosis, I'm talking about a medical diagnosis now, that's happening with one of your members that you've been trying to fix and trying to pray over and trying to anoint them with oil. They're still in the same condition, and then you're getting frustrated. It's above your scope of practice. That person has something deeper, and they need to talk to a clinician. I'm talking about a medical, a practicing clinician in psychotherapy. They need to go and talk to someone. So I start that book off by talking about the things my daddy did not know. My daddy was a bishop in the Church of God.
Yeah.
But he did not know how to be with people who were in the deep places of darkness. He knew how to pray powerful prayers. He knew how to lay hands on them. But people who was really struggling mentally and psychologically, he did not have the tools. So that book is an invitation for ministers to stay in their lane, but also for doctors and medicine and other professions stay in their lanes too. We don't need doctors and nurses. I had students say they heard the nurse say, well, I can take care of the patient. I can minister. I go to church. No, nurse, stay in your lane. We have chaplains for that. Stay in your lane. You know, because we have that connection with God. John Patton says in his book, John Patton was he wrote extensively on pastoral care from Campbell School of Theology. He wrote extensively on it, and his word was, "We represent God. We don't represent God. None of us are good enough to represent God. No, we can preach a sermon to the whole church fall out, but we are not good enough to represent the holy.
Yeah.
We can represent him. And there's a big difference between representing and representing. So when we represent him, the words we preach remind those people who God is. When we walk into a patient's room, when you say, I'm the chaplain, you just represented God, because that's who God is. He comes to sit with us and to hear our stories so that God empowers us. So I'm encouraging ministers to do the same. Empower people with their own resources, because they really have some resources. They just have been untapped. So that's my book, Bring Chair, not a needle. And then the other one we just talked about, Stay in Your Lane. Hook up with a clinician. Get to know clinician. I even suggest in the book, perhaps you can have some cards of different clinicians in your geographical location. Because everybody, they don't want to talk about it. I don't want to say I'm going to see a therapist. I want to say I'm going to see somebody in psychology. They can just pick the card up and go. But you can train cave walkers. You can train cave walkers. Pastor, you're real busy. Train some cave walkers in your church. You know, and they can help identify if that person need to see someone beyond the church. And I have some words, Pastor, that you can say to that person so they don't feel like you are rejecting them or you are pushing them aside.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. We're listening now to the wisdom and the insight of the Reverend Dr. Francine L. Hernandez, the leading voice in the, and I'm not doing this, I'm not using hyperbole, the leading voice of clinical pastoral education in the world, one of the leading voices, and I thank God for doing this interview today. Dr. Hernandez, we were also glad just a few weeks ago, some time ago, to see you go off and get some vacation time. I know you needed it to get some rest, and you came back and you wrote a book. You had written a book, The Use of Self in Pastoral Care, a psychodynamic primer for CPE trainees. When I read this book, and we were able to talk about this book with you, I said, wow, I wish I had had this work when I started. But you took yourself, and we thank God for you on this, and showed us your journey, how you made it through. And we all laughed about it and connected with it. I want to give you some time to talk about this book. This is your latest work. It is weighted with wisdom and all of the strength that comes from your soul and your passion for CPE, the use of self and pastoral care. Talk about that for us. There it is. There it is.
Yes, yes, yes. This book, I tell you, I love it. I wish, Pastor Williams, I wish I had this book before I took CPE. And what I do in the book, I take you back to my seminary days when I had to take CPE was required.
Yeah.
And the interview that I had with Reverend Dr. Chuck Carpenter, I even put the book in memory of him because he was so impactful in my life. He was my CPE supervisor. And in that interview, he asked me a question that I had never been asked before. Who are you? I'm saying, what is he talking about? He has my application. He know what I've done. He know my credentials. He know my experiences. What he talking about? And I started talking about how most of you pastors answer the question. They ask me, who are you? You said, well, I'm Pastor Jackson. I pastor down on 102nd Street. You know, I have about 500 members and I'm married. And that's not who you are. That's what you do.
Yes.
And that's the question stunned me. He said, I didn't ask you what you did. I asked you, who are you? And I tell you, that question made me go back into looking at what are the building blocks of self. It's about self. Because self is in ministry. Who are you? What make you to be who you are? What is it? What are the things that happen to you that make you who you are? Maybe you say, well, when you pause and think about who I am, it may be that you are someone so compassionate for those who are without, because you grew up without. And now you're reaching for people who don't have. So that's a part of who you are. But he went deeper than that in my own story. You'll get it in the book.
Yes.
About who am I? But that was my introduction to CPE. And I was able to realize that I talk about in the book, one of my favorite Western is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yes, Clint Eastwood. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I suggest, even in this book, that in all of us, regardless of how close you feel to God, how long you've been saved and preaching, all of us have within us the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, here's the good news. You don't have to throw any of it away because it made you who you are. That's who you are. Those things that have shaped you to be the person who you are today. And so if I didn't have any bad in me, Pastor William, how can I relate to a person who got some bad in them?
Yeah.
Huh? If I didn't have any ugly in me, how can I relate to the person who got some ugly in them? No, because God uses all of that in us to help us to relate to people across the globe who might be going through their own situation. So the use of self is getting to know who you are first, because if you don't know who you are, how can you minister to me?
Yeah.
Who are you? And the more you know about yourself and who you are, then when you are with another person, you can avoid kind of transfers taking over. Now, kind of transfers is stuff from your own past, kind of peek its ugly head when you talking to somebody. Let me give you an example. Say if in your own past, your dad was an abuser, abused your mama, and you just don't like no abuser, period, because he abused your mama. And then now you pastoring 30 years later, and a person joined your church, and you learn that that person was an abuser. Now, I'm not talking about legal stuff now. We're not talking about the crime. That's a whole different story. Then you got to handle that accordingly. But you find out the person who comes and say you visit the hospital. Say you're a chaplain in the hospital now, and you visit them. And that person said, my husband abused me, or my dad abused my mama. Now, if you're not careful, your mind gonna jump right back to your mama being abused.
Mm.
And all those feelings. That's a psychodynamic approach. Huh?
Right.
So you got to be understanding what's happening to me. The question you have to ask yourself in every encounter with another person, what is happening with me?
Yeah.
How am I responding? We call it this hermeneutics of suspicion. For others, have one for yourself. Be suspicious about your response. Because that thing in you, if you never had counseling for it, never got it resolved, when you're with other person who show up or present the same kind of features or experiences that happened to your mama in the past, and now you with them, those feelings gonna take over that encounter. But when you know yourself, you can tell yourself, now this is my stuff. It will not derail this visit. I'm gonna be with this person in the moment. I can go and process my stuff later. That's coming up in me. That's self-awareness. That's the use of self. Knowing yourself. So that when you are with the other, you know your own stuff from theirs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole lot more in this book. I want you to get it and read it. Read it. I think you will enjoy it. I try to keep it at a low price, $9.99. I put it both in Kindle and in paperback. You can go get it right now. You can hit that button, go to Amazon.com and start reading. And I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear your review of the book.
Yes.
You can put it right there on the Amazon Amazon site. I know it will bless you. It blessed me. I wish Pastor Williams says he wished he had this book before he started CPE. I wish I had it. That's why I'm writing it for those students who are going to take CPE. And even if you never took CPE,
Yeah.
I promise you, it would help you to start getting in touch with who you are.
Yeah, doctor, I'm a little jealous of these new trainees coming in now. They get to dive into this work,
Right.
but I say that to say this, and this emphasis was made very clearly when you were dealing with us as a group. That even if you've been in CPE, you're on your third or fourth unit, it's still a book that can benefit you in your pursuit of excellence in this work of clinical pastoral education. Dr. Hernandez, I'm going to have to bring it to a close here. I want to thank you for this wonderful time together. Once again, the author of Cave Walker, A Psychodynamic Approach to Pastoral Care, Bring a Chair, Not a Needle, Empathy Over Fixing, Stay in Your Lane, Churches Need Clinicians, and this latest work, Use of Self in Pastoral Care, A Psychodynamic Primer to CPE and for CPE trainers. She is the best. Dr. Francine Hernandez, we're going to have some information for you in the chat this morning so that you can follow up. If you are curious and want to learn more about CPE today, we'll have that information for you in the chat. And once again, we thank you. Once again, Dr. Francine L. Hernandez, thank you for coming on and being with us, Dr. Hernandez, and we hope to do this again real soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Blessings on you. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Breakfast Blessing. Well, that was a riveting interview. I am very thankful to Dr. Hernandez for that opportunity to be with her on Breakfast Blessing. That interview recorded a few days ago. And of course, we will have some information for you momentarily this morning on our Facebook page. We'll have it available for you if you're interested in clinical pastoral education. And of course, in the books that the author has written, Dr. Hernandez's books, we will have information for you available on our Facebook page. So tune back into us for that. We hope that you will solve your curious feelings and just look into it. And of course, we do hope that this interview and this time together with Dr. Hernandez has been edifying and uplifting for you this morning, at least to stretch your thinkability about some of the modern contemporary matters in our churches and how we must address them going forward into the future. Amen. Thank you for being with us here on Breakfast Blessing. And thanks again to Dr. Hernandez for this special opportunity we've had our interview with her posted here on this morning. We'll be back next week again, of course, on Breakfast Blessing. We're praying that you will have a blessed Sunday today, that the Lord will bless you real good is our prayer. And until then, may the Lord be with you and keep you.